The Palestinian Authority presents a document outlining unconditional terms for the continuation of peace talks as Israel officially cancels the release of a fourth batch of Palestinian prisoners. Another milestone in the ongoing Syrian civil war, over 1 million. This is the number of Syrian refugees in Lebanon, according to the UN Refugee Agency. 4 years after a massacre on the military base Fort Hood, Texas, an investigation is open to understand why an Iraq war veteran opened fire and killed 3 fellow soldiers. Welcome back to the news today. This is the Daily Debate. Another tragic milestone in the ongoing Syrian civil war. The UN's Refugee Agency announced that the number of refugees who have fled Syria and entered Lebanon has passed 1 million. And that's only one of the several shocking statistics. About 9.5 million people, almost half of the Syria's population, have fled their homes since the start of the conflict. So it's clear today that the world is facing one of the largest humanitarian crises in the modern era. What can be done to stop these numbers from rising? Is it too late for Western world intervention? Joining me tonight is Dr. Eldad Pardo, Iran expert at Hebrew University. Good evening.
Good evening.
And also Dr. Mordechai Kedar, Director, Center for Middle East and Islam Studies. Good evening.
Good evening.
So maybe, is it too late, gentlemen?
It's never too late, and any crisis is also an opportunity. I think the major problem in Lebanon, when we speak about Lebanon, the entire refugee problem is much wider. But in Lebanon, the main problem is the attitude, the confessional structure of the country, and it's a very rigid, almost racist attitude to power between various groups within the country. Just look at what happened in Israel at the beginning of the 1990s. Yeah. Israel, about the same size of a country, absorbed 1.5 million Russian refugees, and this led to the boom of the high-tech. It was the greatest opportunity in Israel's history. Same in 1948, 600,000 local people absorbed more than 1 million within a year or two, and this is Israel as we know it. And there are other examples. Look at Jordan. After the American invasion to Iraq, Iraqi refugees into Jordan really pushed the economy. So the question is, what will the Lebanese do with this opportunity? I call it an opportunity, not a crisis.
Is it an opportunity, not a crisis? This is a very optimistic way to look at it.
Well, very optimistic. And I do think that there's no way to compare what happened in Israel in what happened there. Because in Israel, when people came, people wanted to absorb them, because this was the whole raison d'etre of this country. Lebanon is not there in order to absorb Syrians. Lebanese hate Syrians. Syrians are coming in order to take advantage of Lebanon. Lebanese do not want them. And the problem is that those Syrians who come to Lebanon actually bring the domestic Syrian problems to Lebanon. Because who are those refugees? Some of them are Alawis, are running to the Alawi parts of Lebanon. Some of them are Sunni Muslims. Some of them are Shiites, Ismailis, who are running away from the knives of Jabhat al-Nusra. And what do you think they do in Lebanon? Sitting around one fire and singing Kumbaya together? Now they are fighting each other, and they will fight each other inside Lebanon. All the years, Hafiz Assad used to say that Lebanon and Syria is Sha'b bidawlatain, means one nation
with 2 countries.
Divided to 2 countries. Yeah. Actually, he was right. The same problems, the same clashes, and the same war. We already see it in Tripoli, big time. The war between the Sunnis in Bab al-Tabana and the Alawis in Jabal Muhsin.
So can you, in a way, say that we might be facing, maybe in the upcoming years, another clash between the refugees and the Lebanese inside Lebanon?
It will be between everybody and everybody. It will be within the Lebanese.
Right now, it's between everybody and everybody.
Right, because it's already the tension between, which was very clearly said by Nasrallah in his last address a few days ago, he actually addressed this situation that anytime this combustible problem in Lebanon might ignite. And those who oppose Hezbollah and Hezbollah's role in Syria, because they blame him from bringing the fire from Syria into Lebanon. He of course, defends Lebanon, according to what he says, in Syria. So how can you bridge between these two sides?
Before we will ask how Jordan is dealing with the refugees, the Syrian refugees, how is Lebanon supposed to deal with all these refugees?
Again, the problem with Lebanon is that Lebanon is, to a certain extent, responsible for this problem, because Lebanon allowed itself to lose its independence for Iran in the early 1980s. In 1983, Israel and Lebanon signed a peace treaty. And then came the Iranian and the Syrians and blocked it. And the Lebanese never assumed their independence. They allowed Hezbollah to become a country within a country. And then Hezbollah blocked the peaceful demonstrations in Syria and created all this genocide and war and using gas against the civil society. So what the Lebanese are called today is to rethink their attitude, and also the Shiite Lebanese. You know, the Shiites are very sensitive to justice and to the suffering. So they should go back to their homes and think about their attitude, unite as a Lebanese people, re-achieve their independence, and start helping their fellow brothers, refugees, work together in order to create a new Lebanon and maybe a new Levant, a new Sham.
So
I wish it would be realistic, yet it is, I think, much of a dream, because this region actually sinks into a swamp of quarrels between tribes, between groups, between ethnic groups, between religious groups and community groups like Shias and Sunnis and Alawis and Kurds and Arabs and Persians who are dealing with everybody and igniting more and more fires in this region. And unfortunately, what I'm afraid of is that this region actually sinks into this swamp of fire, of blood and tears, where cooperation it will be as far as could be.
So if we're looking right now at the current situation, and I wanted to ask you, how is Jordan dealing with their refugees?
Jordan has its own ways how to deal with this. First of all, unlike Lebanon, which let the Syrians live wherever they like, in Jordan they live in two major camps. One for the Syrians and one, voila, for the Palestinians. They don't let the Palestinians be loose in Jordan, and they keep them in a separate refugee camp, because they will be the first to be back in Syria. Because the last thing which Jordan wants today is to add more Palestinians. Syrians they could tolerate. Iraqis, they could take them, but not Palestinians. Here is the very sensitive issue in Jordan, because they do not want the Palestinians, and they do not want more Palestinians. After all, today they are already like 80% of the population Palestinians. These are the least. This is the last group which Jordanians will welcome.
Still, the attitude of Jordanians to Palestinians is general. If you compare to other Arab countries, and particularly Lebanon,
they gave them citizenship.
Is really beyond reproach.
Maybe it's the biggest Arab country who really dealt with the Palestinian problem and not.
Yes, they are citizens, but they are considered as refugees by the UNRWA, which is something. How can they be refugees if they are citizens?
And I want to now look at the bigger picture and look at the international community. How can it seems that the international community will cry about this in 10 years, will maybe say that it is the Holocaust of the Syrian people in a few years, because if we're reaching numbers like these, this is another Holocaust.
Well, Holocaust I think is a bit
maybe a big word.
It's a bit of a strong word, but I think already if you look at the Syrian crisis, just think about all these volunteers, either jihadist Sunnis or jihadist Shiites that are swarming into Syria. this phenomenon could have been averted 2.5 years ago when Iran was starting to meddle in Syria, and all these people are going to become the next 9/11. There is no doubt about it. As for the refugees, again, I think that there should be here a joint effort of Lebanese trying to reform the society. I hope that this major challenge will make them think a little bit about this confessional system that they so much cherish. And also, it's very important that the United States and the West and maybe other countries will try to do something to help these people.
But it seems that the international community is just standing aside.
First of all, the international community is clueless. Secondly, it's divided between itself. On one side, you have Russia and China and Iran with their interests. On the other side, Europe and America with their interests. So definitely they actually paralyze each other. But the world united will regret for not dividing Syria to a Kurdish state, Alawi state, Druze state, Aleppian state, and Damascene state, and a state for the Bedouins in the east, because they speak Iraqi Arabic.
Yeah.
So, and this is the solution for states, for failing states like Syria, like Libya, like Iraq, yes, like Yemen, to have homogeneous, even if small, states, because homogeneous society can take care of itself and not fighting with each other as it is in most of the countries in the Middle East.
You always explain to us when you're coming to the studio that we're talking about a tribes community. This is a tribal society. And basically, it seems that these clashes are inevitable.
Because they were forced by the colonialism to live together with each other, means to step on each other's toes constantly, and always one small group, vicious, cruel, takes the whole thing over. It is the Dulaimis in Iraq, means the tribe of Saddam Hussein, is the Alawis in Syria, is the Qadhaf al-Dam, means the one who sheds blood, tribe in Libya. This is, and what you saw in Ali Abdullah Saleh in Yemen as well. Wherever you see one group, small group, takes over all the others, it's an illegitimate state and an illegitimate regime, and the fate of Syria is inevitable.
So when the world will finally wake up and intervene in what is happening, and with this crisis, with the refugees, and let's face it, the massacre that is happening in Syria, what should the world do? Except of, pointing the finger and telling Syria, this is not good, this is not nice.
Well, I don't know whether you speak about the war in Syria or the refugee problem. The refugee problem, it should be a temporary, there should be temporary solutions, there should be money coming in, there should be medical help, educational help, and all the rest. This is, this goes without saying. As for the war in Syria, I don't see why there is no possibility to stop it. The United States and the West, they have so much power. They just are reluctant to apply it. It's not such a problem that it is not possible to be solved. The will is missing, and we saw it in the past. Look at the 1994, the Rwanda. The world was watching a genocide, more than 1 million people dying, and with machetes. Of course, the 1 battalion could have solved it. The question is a question of willingness. Yeah, exactly.
Look, you're right, but by saying this is a willingness. But as much as the world can want, it cannot bring peace between parties which do not want to live in peace with each other. Just look at Israel and the Palestinians. The same thing.
You just took the words out.
Yeah.
No, the same thing. The same thing.
Yeah,
if people do not want to live in peace with them, not America, and not Russia, and not Iran, and nobody in the world can force them.
But you don't have a genocide here. It's one question
Right.
of rights, civil rights. More money, less money, more independence, less independence. In Syria, 150,000 people dead, and you have 6 million refugees, and
only because
so
they keep living in one framework which doesn't work for anybody. It should be divided, dismantled to homogeneous units, and every unit should take care of itself and leave the others alone. And this is the only solution for the Middle East, from Morocco in the west, all the way to Iraq in the east, from Syria in the north, all the way down to Yemen in the south.
So who is going to declare victory at the end of the day? Because it seems that Bashar al-Assad already declared a victory a few months ago.
Well, in the Middle East, if the leader, only the leader, remains alive, he will come out from the bunker and say, I warn everybody. The fact that everybody else is dead doesn't make any much of difference, because other people will come to be for him to be their leader. So this is the Middle East. This is the culture of the Middle East, and we have to live with this because this is what we have here.
One last thing.
Right now, Syria is far from being united. Bashar al-Assad controls about 1/5 of the Syrian territory. And, academic experts are not supposed to tell the future. We are supposed to tell the past, and we'll wait and see.
If we agree on the past.
Yeah, if we agree on the past. This is also difficult.
But at least you were very optimistic at the beginning of this debate, so I have to say, at least you made me feel good for the weekend. Dr. Mordechai Kedar, Dr. Eldad Pardo, thank you very much for coming to the studio. We're going out for a small break, 2 minutes break, and then we will be back with the I-24 News one-on-one. Don't go anywhere. The news today, 2 minutes.